Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the new thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Rev BRZ with you over here.
Z right here.
And Laura right here in the UK.
Well, Laura, way over there.
I'm over there. You're over there.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit. It happens every Friday morning, 7 a.m. here on the Mountain Time Zone. Rev Z and I get together and talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today we do have our wonderful friend and guest and like super power host around the network. Every time I turn around, Laura's got another show, and that's a good thing. She does so much, and we'll touch on some of those things as we go today. But first and foremost, we just wanted to say hello, Laura. Welcome all the way from the UK onto Ministers Talking Shit. How are you doing over there today?
I'm doing really well. I'm just really excited to be here and joining you because I love this show. And it's great to be hanging out with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Glad you're with us. Hey, Z, we had a good time last night, huh?
Yes, we did. I didn't quite expect when we signed up. When I signed up, because I wasn't even going to go. Robert took my arm, and we had a ministerial meeting last night, celebration, holiday gathering. Ministers and their significant others, and it was a great time.
Yeah, lots of fun, folks. I'd say there's something special about getting together in sacred community, and where I spoke to this last night, where you have the richness of time, of a lot of connections and a lot of shared stories. Someone last night mentioned a specific book and author, and I personally flashed back to a rant that I gave during a class about that book and author. And I'm sure there's a few others in the room that remember that too. So I was thinking that might have been the back then, those classes might have been the impetus for this program, Z.
Yeah. to just fully take the new thought idea and look at it from all perspectives, which will really look at a way of life, which is what I prefer to start looking at now as opposed to a religion, because I don't think sometimes they're integrated properly. A way of life, this spirituality affects and has an offering, if you will, for every aspect of your life: political, economic, social, you name it. There's a perspective there that can give it a more humanitarian and a more of looking at things.
Yes. Folks, we might be experiencing just a little bit of technical difficulties with Reverend LZ's sound there. If that's true for you at the moment, know that that'll clear up, and we're just going to know that that's fixing itself there. So Laura, you've been with us here a little bit this morning already as we prepared, and we came to the idea of taking a global perspective, a look at the global ideas around what's happening in society today. And as Z was just saying, that might be economic, that might be social science. What's up in your heart? What's real for you in what's going on from a global perspective of New Thought today?
Yeah, great question. For me, what really is coming through is this powerful spiritual practice. Maybe this is the new spiritual practice, which for me is acceptance of each other, acceptance of ideas, acceptance of different ways of living, of being. And I believe this is the new opportunity for us to connect with each other in a way where we can put our ideas and others' ideas, right, kind of take off this kind of ladder of one idea is better than the other, or will work in a better way, rather than, you know, your idea isn't as good as, or your way of living isn't right and my way of living is. And so that's just what's in my heart, that what's coming through is that we're being given this amazing opportunity to accept each other. And that, I suppose, from a new thought, you know, perspective, that's oneness in action, really, because we all talk about oneness. What does that, you know, oneness as a verb for me is accepting each other and hearing each other and having that deeper conversation without blame.
Yes. You just said something that I want everybody that's listening to really hear. Oneness as a verb, not just a concept, not just an idea, not just the truth, not just the truth of life, but as a verb. Oneness as a verb. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. And hopefully my volume is a little better there. Let me know if it's not now. I'll try to make some more adjustments. But yeah, I like that. We know life is motion and life is movement, and that's what a verb represents: action, moving. And so, you know, when I about the globe and I think about how things will begin to unfold in 2022, I think, you know, Robert and I were talking about today. We were coming up with these affirmations or sayings, if you will, for the year. And I know for 2022, I think we all know what to do. We need to be more community minded, keep our eye on the prize, which is to have a place where we live and work and have fun that is open to everybody and safe, and that we keep our hands on the levers to keep it a happy. Because when we look at some of the changes going on, either economically or climate wise, or you name it, we have some points where we now need to make some global community decisions to keep going on the trajectory that we're already on of recovery, if you will.
Yeah. You bring that word recovery in, Z. For me, like, there's a piece that absolutely agree with you. We have to start looking at the concerns from that global perspective. Watching a bunch of countries fly their jets into somewhere to have a meeting about climate change, kind of, you know, I get it. They all got to travel and they all got to be safe. And there are other ways to do things. And that's what I think wants to be explored, is kind of how can and who can move the needle in so that we just look at if we look at it differently, we're going to get a different perspective on how to change things, on how to heal things. And I've been on a real big kick lately that healing is not changing things or going back to some previous state. Healing is coming into alignment with what is. And the reality is, as we've been talking about, climate change is real. Economic inequality is real. Racial inequality is still real in our lives. We're gonna have to do something.
I really so agree with that. The healing is, you know, coming to that place of knowing truth and really embodying that. And I heard something the other day that it only takes one generation to plant a new seed and tell a new story, like really, really, really going for it and telling a new generation a new story. That, you know, so that works in two ways, because we can then kind of dismiss what's gone on in the past and not tell the truth. So we, you know, so there's that we don't have to own what happened. And then there's also, from that other perspective of, we can change the story. We can change the emphasis here within one generation. We can change the emphasis of mass consciousness, of how, you know, of this creating a new story, that healing is possible by tuning into the divinity within, rather than blaming everybody for what seemingly has gone wrong. So we're really powerful, and it's like we're not taught to use that power. We're not educated to use that power. It's stifled, and that's the same in the UK as well. It's stifled from a young age.
Well, and interesting. As you say that, the time that we start getting the predictions for the coming year and all phases of life. So it'll be interesting as the different organizations and think tanks begin to take in all the information and move forward on what's going to be the coming year and all. They normally do economics and environment and society and technology, and I can't help but believe that this year, as in last year, we still have this big unknown of the COVID virus that we don't know how it's gonna and I know they put that into their model, but you can't predict the virus. You can only predict the human behavior. Hopefully, one of the prediction is humanity will begin to look at this virus as a opportunity, like you said, Laura, for together and work together to help those countries who can't maybe get vaccines, and encourage people have enough evidence to support you need to get a vaccine, so that these economies and educational systems can begin to open back up, because there's going to be some consequences. How the educational system in the UK has been dealing with the COVID. I'd be interested to hear that.
Well, I have my own personal view on vaccines and COVID and the efficacy of mass vaccination, the way that it has been rolled out as an experimental process, as the vaccine hasn't been tested. And I believe on some level that we're all being tested upon right now with this vaccine. And results are coming through that are showing that now, even if you're vaccinated once or twice or 3 times with the booster, that actually you can still get COVID. It's not, it's like COVID isn't, in fact, it's now, mutating itself into something else because it's becoming vaccine aware. So I think young people here are, when I say young people, I mean, I'm talking about 17 to 24 years old. I think there's a big population of them that will not get vaccinated because they're clued up, they're reading all sorts of aspects. They're not falling into one way of thinking. They're educating themselves on the bigger picture of it. And yet, it's not easy because there are vaccine passports and vaccine documents now. So to get into a bar, to get into a club, you have to have those documents. You have to have been vaccinated unless you can get it as a fake ID, because that's what's going to be coming out next. Just like fake driving licenses, there'll be fake IDs for vaccines for people that don't want to get it. And so I think it's a topic. It's a hot topic. It's a hot topic.
And there's the nature of a virus, which some of the common ones you think about is the common cold and the flu virus. And we know that the nature of the virus is like everything else on the planet that is sentient, that is to survive and live. So it will continue just as we continue to evolve. So it's going to be an interesting perspective in terms of the medical solution, because we know, already a lot of the medical intelligence, if you will, are already know and trying to figure out. I think the way to give it to the public is that this will continue to mutate, just like a year we have a different strain of the flu. Now, you know, we've had the swine flu and all these different flus that have come out from one variant, right? And it spawned it, and it's real, right? So we know viruses are real. We know that from a health perspective, based on your internal lifestyle, how you eat, how you exercise, sleep you get, it affects the immune system. So again, you know, people have been getting flu shots for a while and they still get the flu, but it's a combination. That's the one thing we look at from a new thought perspective. We know it takes a holistic approach to live life fully. So people have to work with, you know, in addition to this, I need to exercise. I got to sleep. I got to eat right. I got to manage my stress. You know, there is no one way. It's a yin and yang. And that'd be the answer, I think, for everything, is to keep your finger on the pulse and be able to adjust as we move through this, whether it's economics or medicine, climate. I mean, one of the polls I looked at, it says 39% of the people globally expect we will have a major natural disaster hit a major city in their country, and that's globally. So do you? And
I was just going to ask. That's so interesting. Do you think that's such a high percentage because people are ultimately in a place of fear anyway, and so it's like, well, that's another thing to be in fear of, you know?
I think. Go ahead, Robert.
I think many people in many sectors have been brought up, yes, and programmed and conditioned and trained to live more in fear than in trust and in faith. And you know, I like to preach to that, having a deep sense of assurance that this is all going to work out, that the end result is attainable, and that we can, and that we are working towards the bigger visions. And it's very easy, yes, to for everyone, for all of us, to get enticed by the human conditions of it all and the what ifs of it all. And I personally just have, what I found is if I go down those roads, it becomes dystopia real quick. We're living in post-apocalyptic grayness real quick. And anybody knows me knows I like a lot of colors. You just look at this Christmas sweater. I mean, and once bought a vehicle in this sweater, and the guy said it was the best ugly sweater he ever saw. I almost didn't buy the vehicle. Salesman says that too. Anyway, we've got to come back to that place where my eye is on the prize, where I want to go. And that same study, and we'll drop a link here, folks. As Z shared this study with us, and this study was done recently, October 5th through November, October 22nd through November 5th of this past year. Adults all across the country, a whole bunch of different markets and countries. And while there is a lot of apprehension, it seems, and a lot of concern, what's going to happen with Omicron and natural disasters and political upheaval, and for the first time ever, the United States was classified as a devolving economy, or an economy, or a democracy, a devolving democracy. Like, that's a scary term. And in the midst of all the doom and gloom of that, there is also the thread that people are overall have a good outlook, and have 77% of those people believe that 22 will be better than 21. 75% believe that 22 it will be better for their country than 21. 61% believe the global economy will be stronger in 2022. So for me, I'm always going to look at, I just heard Monty Python singing in my head, right? Let's look on the bright side of life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah.
And the thing that came up for me while you were saying that, is that at a base level, I think we begin to understand that the planet itself is a living thing, right? And we have grown out of the earth. I believe we've grown out of the earth, which is why all of the minerals that you find on the planet are in us. A lot of the chemicals are in us. So we are an extension of the planet. And I think right now the planet is going through its own COVID recovery, if you will, moving forward. And so the climate changes and the economic change and the racial, all of that is a way, in my mind, of the planet saying we have to right side. People are feeling it at a base level of numbers, but we're so disconnected now. We've become so fearful now that we now have to begin to plant the seeds of togetherness and oneness and cooperation and interconnectivity, which is what the earth does. Everything on this planet is connected some kind of way from to the rocks. And that's what we have to do in all aspects of our lives, just like nature, the planet, is teaching us and has always taught us.
like Laura was saying at the beginning, that's acceptance.
Yes. And that's what we need. We need to accept ourselves. We need to accept the conditions that we find ourselves in at the moment, because we know they will change. And then we need to accept the fact that we have all the intelligence, all the tools, all the insights that we need to move beyond this point to a better point.
Yeah.
And that's not, from a human perspective, that's not easy when all of this is going on, because research and studies have been done to show that with four things in place, the human spirit can be completely demolished. And that's, like, from a psychological point of view, that's isolation. When people are feeling isolated, that's another breaking down of human spirit and will, and and that feeling of, and depression sets in, and fear of something, like you were saying, Rev Robert, a natural disaster, fear, if that's instilled in the mind, and economic, if there's an economic threat, that's another one of those things. I think there are four altogether. So we're kind of all living in that mass fog of these beliefs that can overpower. And if we're not strong enough within to know that there is the other way, or the way where we have this incredible connection, that we are that connection with the divine, then it's very easy to get lost in the mesh of all of it.
And what I just heard in all of that, folks, now more than ever, it comes back to your spiritual practice. You have to have a foundation of a strong spiritual practice. We are under, I agree with you, Laura, we are under an immense number of stressors. And I had never put it in the concept of that is an aggressive, not act overtly, but that is an aggression towards our spiritual life, life right now, or the reality of our life. So again, healing is not trying to change all that stuff. It's coming into alignment with, this is what is, and I got to double down or triple down or work harder on my spiritual practice to give me a foundation of truth where we can weather this together.
Yeah.
You made me think of something. I had to go look it up, Laura. You're talking about, you're talking about juggling, right? And anybody can throw a ball up and juggle one ball at a time for a very long time. And you can get somebody to do two balls. And you can get three. Now you get past three, we start going down. So I was like, well, what is the record for things for juggling? How many objects? And there's a guy out of the UK in 2012 was able to juggle 11 balls for a couple of minutes. I think it was 10 minutes or something. But that is so rare. It's the world's record. And when you put that on us as humans, when we're juggling all these things, something is bound to drop, or you're not going to be able to juggle them for so long. And so,
yeah.
So there's, again, if I can get someone to help me juggle this, or I can reduce the things that need to be juggled, that makes a life better for everybody. And so we don't all run around in a stressful mode or riding with our emergency brakes on, because we just don't know when we're going to need to stop. So we want to have the brake on, and we know eventually that causes the brakes to go out. And that's what's going to happen if we can't begin to work in that fashion of unity.
Oh, damn. And you just,
Yeah.
and we can't ride the clutch either. Like, you cannot ride the clutch. You've got to let that clutch out and put it in gear and go. And how I get it, for so many reasons, we've had to slow down over the last couple of years. We've had to take some of this isolation, but at a certain point, don't ride the brakes and don't ride the clutch, baby.
Yeah.
It takes courage to step into, not ignoring, because we can't, there's no way of ignoring or denying. It's like, it's there. This is all going on. For me personally, it takes courage every day to wake up and say, right, I'm going to have this attitude of, I'm carrying on and it's fine and it's good. And I know I'm safe. All is well. Those spiritual principles that I have to say them over and over to myself, because I don't want to I'm not a big news read. I don't switch on the news, but I want to see the newspapers. I want to read the headlines, because I want to be engaged in a way where I haven't got my head in the sand. Mm-hmm. So when I go to the shop once a day and get an iced coffee or whatever, I will read the newspapers and I will take it in from a very objective perspective, and I will send love. And then I know this is going on, but this is just one slice of a media representation. Mm-hmm. But yet everybody's being fed it in the UK as well. The headlines are horrific. And this is what the masses are reading. And so for me, I have to purposefully say these affirmations, these truths to myself daily. Otherwise, I'd very easily be one of those people that was watching the news, looking for some kind of golden solution out there.
You made me think about my closing thought a lot earlier when you said that, because I think the thing that everyone has to look at and consider and even implement is how we change the narrative, because these headlines and these news stories are a way of imposing a narrative of what the situation is. But you get 100 people in that situation and everybody will have a slightly different, if not drastically different, narrative of what's going on. And so I think as we begin to equip ourselves with better information and better experientials and better focus and intention, we begin to look at and articulate a more true narrative to change what we are already finding ourselves in that nobody likes, or very few people like. I'll put it that way. I'm sure somebody's enjoying this narrative, but it's not us.
But it's not us, exactly. Hey, folks, speaking of what Reverend LZ is sharing here, we've got a relatively brand new show on the New Thought Media Network. It's called And Now the Good News. Happens every Friday evening at 5:00 Mountain Time. You can tune in right here and catch myself and some special guest hosts on occasion, sharing good news stories from around the world that inspire us, and we hope will inspire and uplift you as well. Join us this afternoon for And Now the Good News. We've about run out of time here today, folks. So before we leave, we do want to do a real quick thank you to everyone that makes all this possible. So please give us 45 seconds and we'll be right back to wrap this up.
Thank you Center for Spiritual Living Denver for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
And so on behalf of everyone here at the New Thought Media Network, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. If you have any feedback, if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, or perhaps a suggestion for a guest, you're welcome to do that. Send us an email, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. We'll be getting right back with you on anything you send there. So, all right, gang, final thoughts. Dear Laura, you're up first. Final thoughts for the day.
Oh, you know what? I think the final thought for me is smile at your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. That's it for me, because that's what I think. It's just have that love, that compassion. Know that everyone's doing the best that we're all doing the best that we can do right now. Yeah.
Z?
Yeah, I would say in line with that, let's go out and experience life. So when we begin to articulate these new narratives, we're doing it from a statement of, as my father would also, from what I know and not from what I heard or what I read. It's from an experiential base, and I can act and be more physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually engaged.
Yes. I believe we are changing the world. I believe we are demonstrating a vision of a world that works for all, and we're doing it by being love and being peace. Peace.
Yeah.
Until next time, dear ones, we love you. See you soon.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.